Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to Solitude. So we did put in our downtown intersection a really long time ago. The city's now nicely settled, so it is time to start that downtown. So the first step in the process is to lay down our major road network. I really think when you come to do a downtown, that is the best thing to do so that you can get things orientated and the road network and the traffic flowing exactly how you want to. And then you can really play around with the design of the buildings and the placement of the buildings to get the skyline look that you want afterwards. So that's what we'll be doing in the next episode. But for today, we're really talking about that network planning and that road frame and how our waterfront is going to look, what our transport options are going to look like coming into the downtown, and really planning all of that out. I'm incredibly excited to start getting this in. It feels like it's been a really long time coming, even though it's actually only been 17 episodes. But I feel like at this point in Solitude, it's really needed to get that major expansion in so that we've got that downtown skyline in, and then we can start building out around that, with the focus obviously being on that view. So before you start on any downtown road network, I also think it's really important to actually have a little look at Google Earth, try and find places that are sort of similar in landscape, etc. to what you're looking at. And have a look at how their roads are laid out, their one-way systems, any central plazas, what's the waterfront doing, that sort of thing, if there is one, of course. So we are actually here in Wellington in New Zealand, and the reason why I've chosen this is because the kind of central downtown is not that dissimilar to Solitude's landscape. So you've got this little peninsula that sticks out here right next to the downtown. You've got obviously mountains all around, it's very undulating, that sort of thing, and then the main downtown is right by a little waterfront, which is enclosed in a little cove here. So there are similarities. Obviously, it's a far bigger space than what we have to work with in Solitude, so we'll be doing a much more scaled down version, but there's certainly a lot of inspiration from the road network that we can take here. In particular, we've got this big, major 6-lane two-way road coming up all the way along the waterfront here, which then actually splits off into a one-way system. So it kind of diverts around these buildings, comes round, and yeah, just loops round in one direction, which I really like indeed. And actually looking around here as well, there's quite a few roads that are all one way. So we've got like this road here that comes in, which is one way. This is two-way, crossing it, one way down here, and then it goes back into two-way. Lots of asymmetric roads as well, like over this side, tons and tons of that. There's some really nice little intersections as well, like this. We can definitely try and do things like that with a bit of node controller and IMT within cities. Nice little open plazas as well. Lots of triangular blocks is the other thing that I've noticed here. So we've got triangles here, we've got various different triangular points here, we've got another little triangle point plaza here. So the grid isn't all kind of rigid, it's a little bit all over the place, which I really like indeed. And then we've got curvy roads running through it alongside all of these kind of straight line grids too. So there's a lot of interest to be had in this. And then just looking along the coastline as well, we've got things like this little lagoon here, which I absolutely love. I definitely think we could do something along those lines. Also looking at the waterfront, a lot of it is rocky. It's kind of keyed with rocks almost, or maybe not even keyed, maybe just pathways we'll use here. There's even like water spilling out in between these buildings, this side as well. Quite like that. And we've got big marinas, etc. this side. We won't be doing marinas at the moment, but we'll come on to that when we do the build. We're having a lot of that for sure. And then the other thing is as well, it also goes into this amazing port down here, and we'll be definitely using this for a lot of inspiration when we come to build our port, which is actually going to be in a very similar location. We're going to have the downtown there and the port round this side in Solitude, so lots of inspiration to be taken from that. So this is the space that we are working with, of course, and we do have this amazing, lovely beach in here at the moment. This is all going to disappear. We're going to do a built-up waterfront for the downtown, I think. We've got so many beaches in Solitude. I don't think there needs to be one here. And if people are really craving beaches, of course, they can go across to Serenity if they want a town with a beach. It's right there. And like I said, we are going to have the port over this side, which will flow into our downtown over here. So it's very similar to Wellington in that respect, just a vastly smaller space to work with, which is why, again, we'll be extending this waterfront out. Now, my kind of vision for it overall, just in terms of the overall plan, is I'd really like a big central plaza out in the middle here with a feature building in the middle with open plaza space around it. We'll probably have a one-way system kind of going into that, but I'd really like a straight road running from that right down to the waterfront. then probably also out the back end as well, which I think will probably connect into this main arterial that we have here. That'll flow right down into the downtown like that. And that's going to be our kind of central focal point for our overall downtown. And then with the rail, of course, we've got it running in this side. We've got multiple rail connections over here that we need to bring in. There's at least 3 of them. So they are going to flow around here into a transit hub at the side of our central plaza over this side. So that's the kind of main idea for that. So those really are the 2 focal points of interest that I want to concentrate our road network around. We'll bring in grids, etc. around that. But we also need to consider connections onto things like this mountainside. We'll definitely be building up around this, very much like we saw in Wellington. We also need to connect over this main road and obviously connect this one in. We've also got a coastal highway. So I think the obvious thing here, because this is kind of the highway network, these roads ultimately here, would be to connect up this connection into this road, but also obviously giving access into the downtown and onto the main arterial, etc. as well. So lots of connections to consider. We definitely need to cross this road. We don't want people having to go out onto the highway, and we want more than one connection out here too, because this is actually probably going to be quite built up, particularly in this area as well. This will be like almost a mini extension to the downtown over this side too. So both these points are going to be built up. We're going to worry about this another time though. We're focusing on our main central business district for today. But we do obviously want to think longer term about those different road connections. But I'm going to go for an easy start, and we're going to start with the waterfront. I want to lay out this waterfront road to begin with, and then we can start putting out our straight road up to our central mall, connecting in this one, and then bringing in the transit before we start doing anything more kind of complicated with grid layouts. So for our main waterfront road, I am going to be using the 6-lane road with decorative trees and bike lanes. Yes, of course, I have not put in any bike lanes into Solitude. I've kind of ignored it because I thought the temperature was maybe a bit too much for it. And also the area of serenity that we have already built up doesn't really lend itself to bikes. I don't really feel like it's the type of town that would put the investment into a bike infrastructure like other places in Solitude. But certainly in the downtown, we're going to have really superb biking networks, because ultimately that is really going to help us out when it comes to the traffic. So let's make sure we got tree anarchy turned off for this. And what I do want is I want actually to kind of cheese this space a little bit. We're going to build out actually slightly further from where the beach is, just to give ourselves a little bit more room. So on network anarchy, we're going to force to the ground so that we are at ground level for this. This is of course going to sink in under the water, and we're going to use move it to correct all of that in just a second. But what I do want is this straight piece, which we're going to run out our central plaza from. So we want to make sure it doesn't need to be perfectly parallel to this. I'm not really kind of concerned about that. Ultimately, looking at Wellington, there were lots of bendy roads in there and things that didn't perfectly line up. It wasn't a rigid, straight-lined grid by any means at all. So we're going to run this straight section across the centre, pretty much like that. And yeah, this is going to look super strange for a second. Bear with it, and it will all come together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bend it round the side here, and then come in quite tightly along this coastline actually, and then this is going to run straight out into our port here. So that will do nicely for this side, and then this side we are just going to very simply curve this round. Now I do want a very tight coastal road round here, and I want this main road to flow round into this area of course as well. And we're going to flow this around the beach here. This beach will be staying this side. So we can do some nice building along the actual beach line, coastline for the downtown around here, but not so much in our main central business district waterfront this side. Now the next thing to do is to make sure all of these roads are level. Now I kind of want it at this relatively low height to the water, so we can put some nice rocky waterfronts or paths, etc. along the front, exactly like we saw in Wellington. Yeah, something like that is a nice height, I think, off the water for us to start working with. And then what we can come in and do is use our terraforming tools just to smooth this all out. And I will also as well just get rid of the sand here, because we don't really want that sand texture necessarily around this built up waterfront area. We'll just delete it right up to this point and then leave it on our beach over this side. Now there is one little thing that I want to do along this waterfront here. Where we saw the lagoon in Wellington, I want to kind of add something to a similar effect over this side. So let's actually just grab this road again. And we're going to change it to a bridge section, just for sort of almost one piece, maybe 2 pieces right here. And then if we go back into landscaping tools, let's get quite a small brush size here. And what we're going to do is just level out the land into a kind of semi-lagoon area. like this around this side. Now that's probably actually a little bit deep for what we actually need here. We can smooth this out a touch more. And if we hit play on that, we can see the water flowing into there. And what I might actually do is just grab this node. If we hold Alt with move it, we'll keep our nice smooth curve, just like that. And then let's force this bit to ground just here, just so there's a small entrance and it kind of bends round a little bit like the lagoon that we saw in Wellington. Now the outskirts here are definitely going to need a lot of tidying up, and of course we're completely flooding the road as to be expected. So let's just put it up to fast speed, we'll let that flooding subside and then we'll continue on with our road network. So yeah, that's looking a lot better now. We can kind of see the formation of it. Obviously it needs a lot of detailing around it. We're not going to leave it just like this. But that looks all right for now. And one thing with it as well, actually, I did take away the sand texture. If we do this, it gives it that really kind of nice lagoon colour. So we could just put a tiny bit of sand around this. It will probably do concrete and pathways and quays and things around it, but at least under the water, we'll be able to see that kind of almost turquoisey ocean colour with the sand underneath it. So that's a nice little thing to do around there. And I did also actually just have to put a little water spawn point in this here, because I noticed with the tides in Solitude, the water kept flowing out of it and it kept emptying, so it didn't really look quite right for what I wanted here. So we've added that in to make sure that the water's always there. So lots of tidying up needed around our little lagoon area, but at least that is in for now, so we can work the roads around it. So next up, let's focus on our central plaza area, which, like I said, is going to be the kind of key focal point to our downtown. So I'm going to take, again, the same road, so the 6-lane road with bike lanes. I think for a major downtown, this is not overkill whatsoever, so I'm quite happy to use this road. And what we're going to do is we're going to come fairly straight out of this, not perfectly 90 degrees, but almost actually, up to about there. And then for our central plaza, let's grab some one-way roads, because we're going to bring it round in a one-way system to loop around this area and then back into these 6-lane roads, which will be running in and out of it. So we're going to grab, again, the 3-lane road with bike lanes, so we're keeping that lane mathematics nice and straightforward when it comes to this. And we're going to go out 5 and then up by 20 for this, so let's just make sure that we've got that there. Like that, and then we can just spin it around so it's running all in the correct direction, like so. And then we'll grab our road again and we're going to pull it out the back side like this. And this is going to run straight for quite some time. So let's actually just turn on our terrain guidelines for this. We're going to run it out straight to here, because what I really do want is kind of a big road that you can spend quite a long time driving on, flowing right directly into downtown, so you get some really good views from that. But what we do want to do, of course, is connect it up into this road. Now, this is going to be slightly tricky to get over these hills, I think. Let's just trim this back a little bit. Make sure we keep our terrain lines on. And what we're going to do is we're going to run it up and sort of round this peak here. It's going to flow like this, straight down, and then come round and down into our main road here. So let's continue that all out straight, and then we can get a nice connection in this side if we just use road guidelines for that. They are on. Can't really see it with all the terrain lines. So we can curve that in like that. So let's get rid of this and then just check the slopes from this angle. So yeah, this is all fine. It's pretty gentle. And I like the cutaway here. That's exactly what we want. We'll get some nice layers in with that. Then yeah, it's not too bad coming down this side. We could do with a little bit of extra sloping, I think, here. And of course, we are going to want to amend this road at some point. It's a very, very straight road for Solitude, but I don't mind that. We're going to have curves and grids and things around it, so it shouldn't look quite as painfully obvious as this once it's all done. But what this does do is give us this really nice central plaza. And I am actually going to go ahead and place one of our unique buildings for this, because what I do want for the downtown is I don't want any kind of major tall skyscrapers. Like, these are way, way, way too tall. Like, we're just not going to be putting in any of these type of skyscrapers at all. Really, the kind of shortest we want to go is probably about this height. But the building I'm going to use for the focal point is this one. So this is pretty much going to be the tallest building in our downtown. And what we do want to do with this is, of course, make sure that this is right in the centre of our grid here. So let's actually just go ahead. We're going to use some smaller guide roads just for the moment. So just the regular bog standard vanilla road for this. We're going to make sure that this is right in the centre here. So we'll bring out those as guides. And we can make sure our building is nicely lined up to that, which we've actually done a pretty good job. I'm looking at those pillars and making sure they're in the centre of this road here, which they kind of look like they are. And then if we have a look from this side, I think that's actually gone in pretty luckily first time about right. And then obviously this needs road connections, so we're going to make this whole plaza a pedestrian area in the centre here. So let's grab some pedestrian roads, and we could go for the sandstone, I think, for Solitude is what we have used before, which will be a nice touch for this. And we're just going to very simply run a grid of pedestrian roads around our skyscraper here to frame our main plaza area. And we can bring out connections either side so that people can walk all the way around it. We'll grab this road again. I'm definitely thinking with the tree median for this so that it carries on from the roads that we're using coming in and out of the downtown area here too. We'll obviously change out the trees in a bit as well when it comes to the detailing. But something like that I think would be quite nice. Let's just adjust these nodes here. That's nice and tight up into the side of our building. I don't mind those pillars almost touching it. Same goes for here. Let's just make sure that Ooh, do we go for a curve? I'm quite enjoying that. Let's see if we can do the same thing this side. We can. So we can kind of get this curvy square in. I hadn't planned this, but I like it. I like it a lot. So yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. We're going to hit pause because we don't have a pedestrian area in yet. But ultimately, that is what I want as the centre focal point of our downtown. And then all the buildings around it are going to be smaller than this one. Some of them might be a similar height. We will use some of the skyscraper assets, so things like this one, for example. So we'll have quite a built-up area in the centre here around that. And then we'll kind of tailor it down in height with little pops here and there as we get into taller residential buildings, a couple of other skyscrapers further out from the centre. But that's the general idea that I really want to do with this. So I just love this kind of drive out from the waterfront straight up towards this building. And we're also going to get that same effect when we come from this side. You're going to turn this bend in the road and then look straight down towards that pinnacle focal point of the main Solitude downtown there. So we'll just actually move this over very, very slightly off camera because I realised we probably didn't have enough room for what I want to do for the transport hub over this side. So yeah, it's a little bit better, but it's still the same. So the next thing is to now come on and connect our highway connection here into our coastal road and of course into the downtown network as well. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to split this off into one-way networks, kind of how we saw on Google Earth in Wellington, just not immediately on the downtown waterfront. So kind of, again, taking inspiration from, but not being exactly the same as, is ultimately what we're going to be doing here. So we're actually going to curve this one off and round this mountainside a little bit, just to give ourselves a bit more room here. Now I'm going to go back to freeform actually for this so we can get some slightly smoother curves in. We're going to curve this all the way around the basin like so, and it is at a slightly raised height, which is exactly what we want. We can play with the heights a little bit more in just a second too. We're going to bring this round, and ultimately this is just going to connect straight into this road here. So let's actually just do that so that we get a nice smooth curve on it. Like so, and now we can obviously adjust this so that it's a bridge going over is what we ultimately want here. So let's just move these nodes so that they are nice and close to this road here. Again, holding Alt on move it will give us nice smooth connections there. Let's grab these two and let's just raise them up a little bit. And then what we'll do is go into our road controls here and just upgrade that section to a bridge. We can worry about what else needs to be a bridge in a second as well. That is a little bit low, so let's raise it up a bit more. We obviously want to make sure we haven't got lampposts sticking through. We might need to change this section of road going underneath to one without trees too. I'm thinking that's probably quite a nice height. It's maybe actually a little bit high for what we need, but that will do for the moment. And then coming out this side, I'd really like to smooth this off. So I'd quite like to raise up all of these nodes actually to the same height as we have here, so that it's a nice smooth kind of connection. We can worry about the landscaping afterwards, but it's going to give us some nice layers on the side of our downtown too. So let's we'll go into Network Multi-Tool actually for this on the slope function. We'll go from here right round to here and slope that off. So yeah, that has raised it up a little bit, which is kind of what we want actually. And then we can smooth off some of the land the other side so it's easier for building on. And let's make this slope this side a little bit more gentle as well. So we'll just slope that off. And now we definitely want bridges, I think, for this side. It's not going to make sense for that to be raised landscape. And I think we'll probably want a couple more bridges coming in this side too, like that. And then we can smooth off the landscape from this point when we come to do the detailing. Now this side, again, we're going to upgrade this, though we want it on the ground for now, to the other one-way road. This is all going to flow into this road here. We'll probably have to upgrade this to one with more lanes, obviously, to get our lane mathematics into here. But for now, that will do. So let's just trim that back a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to come fairly straight with this. So I kind of want this flowing along the downtown in quite a straight diagonal pattern like so. And then we can connect it into here with a nice smooth curve. And it does look a little bit tight. So let's maybe just trim back those sections and see if we can get that in a little bit better. Yeah, like that is probably preferred. Let's flip that round. And then this one is going to do essentially the same thing as this other side, like that. And then we'll just change this back to ground pieces here. And we have got enough room, I think, to get a road underneath these bridges. So that's good news indeed. Let's actually just make sure that it is the same height as the other bridge, because we'll want that for sure. And then we can just slope this down a little bit nicer here. Yes, like that. And let me just double check before we go on that we do have enough clearance for a road going underneath. Which we do, yeah, there's absolutely plenty there. So we can still bring in our road network underneath there. But that then means that that highway is now connected into here. And we'll come on to do some node controller and intersection marking tool tricks with this to make this really nice and smooth. But that will work for that framing. Obviously, as well as this, we do want to bring it out into a connection on this road. So let's go to... We don't have any 2-lane one-way with bikes, actually, so we may have to just stick with the 3 lanes for this. But we're going to bring out an extra section of this, which is going to curve round into a connection onto this road. Kind of like that. Let's have a little... That slope actually is not too bad at all. So we can leave it like that for the moment. And I don't mind it being forced to ground. Again, we'll tidy up the terrain, etc. afterwards. But that then gives them a connection from the coastal road onto our main arterial, which flows through to Serenity that side. And then, of course, we'll also want to connect in this direction. But that's going to come off onto a different road. Because I don't want everything connecting into this arterial, and it doesn't necessarily need to. Having a look at Wellington, you know, they're connecting in different places. So, yeah, I think that will create a little bit more interest in our downtown as well. So the road that we are going to connect it into is one running alongside the train station here. So let's put in a road. We want a little bit of a gap to our train line here, but we do want to snap into the guidelines of it so that we're nice and parallel to it. And so what we will do with this is bring that out like so. Now let's delete out this road and we can re-put it in. And this is ultimately the road that's going to hold our station here. But then from this side, we can create a nice connection which curves off here and flows straight into the end of this road. No controller needed here to make sure that that's smooth, but that gives us our connection from that side into the main downtown. We'll of course have other connections along the way, but that's the main ones I wanted to incorporate. And I do also want to make sure that they can kind of turn around on this road as well. So we're going to bring in another road like this, yeah, which will be slopey, which will then come down into our downtown this side too. I'm thinking something more like that for that side. Again, this just gives us variation in what the grid is going to look like. We don't want everything on the same angles. We want grids of different angles incorporated into this. So I think that that will flow nicely there. And then looking at the other end of the train station road, let's actually just bring this up a little bit further. And then this is going to just curve round and meet this road like that. So then, yeah, we can bring in another major 4-lane road up here. And I'm going to go for a very, very slightly off angle to this one. Because again, I don't want things looking too perfect in our grid, ultimately. So let's actually just connect that directly into there. And then, yeah, we will connect this up at a very slightly off angle to our other road that we have there. And that's not connected in at all. Let's remove that and try again. So we've got people connected in from each of the roads, but I'm just conscious that this coastal road here, they'd have to travel all the way out here to get into the downtown. So that's going to funnel a lot of traffic through this section over here. So what we want to do next is actually introduce a kind of one-way system flowing through this end of the downtown. So one coming this way, one coming that way. Again, kind of like how we saw in Wellington. So I'm going to stick to our 3-lane one-way roads with bike lanes as well. We'll go through and make sure that we've got bike lanes in all the appropriate positions as well afterwards. But for now, this will be okay. So we're going to bring this out as a bridge section across this road here. And now we want to make sure that we've got enough room to have the other road coming in. So let's just cross it over like this. And let's check slope and also position on this road. We haven't got any lampposts coming through it. No, so that's good news. And then we're actually just going to go straight down into this road and straight across here. So we'll go away from a bridge section for this. I'm going to force it all the way like that. So yeah, let's come in now with the one-way system running back the other way. So again, we're just going to go straight over and we're going to go straight into this road and connect in this side. Now this is going to kind of need to bend round so that we get a nice smooth connection here. Again, we'll come back on all of these intersections with node controller and intersection marking tool, etc. in the detailing time lapse. And then down here, we're also going to create another little section of one-way road. So we're going to actually snap into that road like that, bring this one back here. And that gives us a nice, interesting little triangle point to work with in our building when we're coming to build out this area. And we can go back to 2-lane roads to connect this in to kind of form that grid area. And we'll come in to fill out more of this grid in the detailing time lapse too. But this is just the kind of major networks we have running backwards and forwards. So the next thing I want to talk about is our major transport hub. And the first thing we're going to look at is rail networks here. We're also going to bring in underground metro too, because we do have that obviously flowing out to our water park and our condo area out here all the way from Serenity. So that will need, and actually the stadium as well, we've got metro. So we'll want to connect that into the downtown nicely. But the major hub is going to be focused on rail. So I'm going to bring out a road just straight up like this, which is going to give us a guide for where we're going to place it. And Solitude downtown, I'm kind of going to do a mix of modern looking buildings and old looking buildings, because I feel like with a tropical island like this, there's a lot of colonial influences. And I'm not saying this building's anything remotely colonial, but I do want that kind of mix of different building styles flowing throughout our downtown ultimately. So yeah, I'm actually going to use the Old Market Station, which is from the Train Stations Content Creator Pack for this, because I think this will be a really nice kind of older addition to our town centre. And it also gives us 4 rail lines, which are all separated. So it looks a little bit nicer than some of the other stations where those tracks are kind of merged in. Now we're going to need to trim this rail back because we're going to need to raise it up to bring it in, because it's all raised rail lines, which is obviously going to help us with traffic quite substantially. So we're going to bring this first rail line out here, which is going to connect up into this one like that. Well, not like that because we will slope it. So let's grab all of these nodes here and we'll go to slope objects. No, we won't. We're going to grab network multi-tool because it works a hell of a lot better for this. And we're going to go to slope objects right up to here. So we get a nice smooth slope into our station. Now it is a curvy line as we come in, but again, I'm fine with that. It comes out straight alongside our network there. I'm just looking actually, it does seem to bend down. So I wonder if actually if we go from all the way back there up to here, yes, it does go down there. We can raise that up. So the train line is going to need some detailing alongside our highway here because that looks awful strange indeed. But then that works from the point of view of connecting it in. We are also going to have another rail line coming out this side too. Now, we're not going to do a huge amount with this today, but we will place it in for now so that we have it. And that is going to flow round this side of the mountain and then actually go on round probably into another station at the back of the sort of built up area that we'll have here and potentially over the hills down into the town the other side as well when we eventually come to that. But we definitely want another rail connection coming out of this station. I think that that is an appropriate place for it. So we're just going to leave it like that for now. When we come to build up on this mountain and in this other area over here, then we'll sort that all out. And in terms of connections coming out the other way, we're going to have a lot of train lines coming out of here. Now we do need to bridge over this highway, which is already in a bridge, which may cause us issues. So we're going to have to look at that relatively closely, like how close can we go to get this bridge across. So we'll just want to do a little bit of playing around to get this right. But then we can pretty much connect these straight in. So let's turn our snapping back on. We're going to have 2 rail lines coming out like that. 4 rail lines, in fact, coming out of this side of the station. Connect those all up. So this is going to be a major rail infrastructure running across this side. Now this one, we need to connect into our local line that we have over this side. So I'm actually going to keep this as a raised rail line, and we're going to cross over this junction right here. And then this one is going to flow back down to the ground and continue on around this mountainside to meet up with this other line here. So something along those lines. We'll come around and smooth this out in the detailing time lapse as well, but that will be that train line connected in. We then also have our main international line, which we need to connect up. So we've got this hill here. So I'm kind of thinking we're actually going to tunnel this underneath like that. And we're going to flow it underneath and bring it back to the surface over here. And then hopefully we want to get this kind of coming straight out of here. So let's bring that out like this and then down to the ground and connect that. It's actually coming pretty straight. I mean, that looks truly, truly awful. So we have actually got a hump in the ground here. So we want to make sure that everything's super duper level. So let's go back to Network Multi-Tool. We'll grab this node and we'll grab this node here. Let's have a little look. Yeah, so, that's just not going to work. And actually, thankfully, this can go through in a little bit of a ravine, I suppose we could call it, through this mountainside here, which again will give us really nice detailing opportunities when we come to build around it. So let's actually just make sure that that's flat on the ground, yeah, because that'll flow through really nicely indeed there. And then in terms of other rail lines, we actually want a couple parallel to this. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll snap into the guidelines here like so, and then we'll just make sure that they are all the same height like that. And it actually gives us really nice smooth rail lines. And we're going to leave this one here for the moment because this is probably going to flow up over the hill and connect into this one. So I don't really want to put too much of it in until we come to build that area. So we'll leave that like that for the moment. And then this line is going to flow off in a completely different direction. So we're going to take it off and underneath the highway this side. So it's going to flow out diagonally like so. We'll go underneath like that. And then we're going to get Network Multi-Tool. Well, actually, firstly, we're going to make sure that this is the same height as the node this side and also underneath our highway. Should have plenty of clearance on that. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Then we'll get Network Multi-Tool, the slope function, and we'll make sure that that is sloped off like so. So it's quite a heavy raised rail infrastructure here. And I'm not super duper loving the archways, to be honest, which come with it. So if we actually go into our train stations content creator pack, we get much nicer looking bridges with our high-speed rail connection. So we're going to upgrade all of these across the downtown to these bridges because they are vastly better looking pillars and a much nicer looking train line, I think. So yeah, I think that suits this pretty well indeed. We'll go through and tidy up all of these pillars and stuff afterwards so they're nicely lined up too. So we'll do all of that in the detailing time lapse. But yeah, we're going to leave these two platforms uninterrupted, as it were, here. And let's make sure we got allow intercity trains on because I want to make sure this intercity line does connect up and trains do flow in. Sometimes you have to choose a different platform on these stations. So we'll wait and see if that actually happens. So thinking about other transport options here as well, I'd also like to bring in trams and metro to this area. So let's actually just bulldoze out this piece of road here for a second. And what we're going to do is get our metro tram hub with road. Now we're going to connect it onto this section here, which apparently we can't do. Okay, so we need to bring it on a tiny bit more of our 4-lane road first because it just doesn't like connecting into the train station connection there. And then what we can do is add in our metro tram hub like that. And then we'll just complete that loop there. Now, obviously, because we've got the tram lines there, we're going to need tram lines in. So let's just go ahead and get that in right away. And then what we could do here as well is continue this tram line on round this way. And I think we'll probably stop here and divert it off. So we'll just leave it like that for the moment. Then at least that gives us tram connectivity going out of that side of the city. And we could make this a bike lane one, actually. Although the bike lanes stop around the station, which is kind of annoying. So we'll have a play around with that in the detailing. But then with the metro too, I would also really like to introduce the metro terminal, the classic one from the Railroads of Japan pack. So I kind of think it would be nice on one of these corners around this plaza here because it's quite a feature building. So can we fit it in there and then also fit in a pedestrian access road to connect through to the station? Yes, we can. So actually, I quite enjoy that because then we've got this nice modern metro kind of commercial building on the side of our main plaza here. Obviously it'll be pretty built up around it from both sides. And then we do have 2 metro lines, hopefully that aren't overlapping. Yes. So this one will have to end here. This one can be a through track, but that gives us a few more options of where we can take our metro around Solitude. So I'm liking that a lot, and gives us a little bit more convergence in this area too. So I do also actually want a bus station in here, and I've realised that this will sit quite nicely under our rail tracks. Obviously if we get rid of these pillars here, which we will do, but then the actual bus terminal is sitting underneath it, and we've got this building on the side of it. So I'm quite enjoying that. I think that that will work as a bus terminal at least once we get rid of the pillars and do a bit of detailing. And then it's also nice and close to our Market Street station and really nice and close to the main exit off the highway here. So buses can just come in, turn straight off into the station here. And then I've also added in this connection so that they can get back onto the highway nice and easily as well. So hopefully that shouldn't be too bad in terms of the bus traffic there. They'll just essentially be doing a little loop around this area in the downtown rather than coming into the rest of the road network there. And easy access, like I said, out onto the highway. So the final thing I want to do before we come on to detailing is just a little bit of extra work on this waterfront here. Like what I would really like, let's make sure we're forcing to ground, is I would really like a kind of area, a bit like we saw in Wellington where we've got a building coming out here with a kind of sort of almost a lock of some description. Where we could potentially put a small marina, something like that in that area. So let's just bring these roads out. This is going to look really bad until we fix it. We bring them out to the same height as that road, and then we'll go ahead and grab our terraforming tools and we'll just level off all of this terrain to the same level that we have elsewhere, like that. And then the building that I'd actually like to add into here is the Posh Mall. If I can now find it, because I feel like this would be quite a nice little waterfront building to have in Solitude. It needs a lot of bob work to get rid of some of the car parking spaces that you can't even see right now because of the major floods. But yeah, this is where it's going. I think it'll be a nice waterfront asset to frame our downtown here. It's not too tall, like we don't want anything ridiculously tall in Solitude. As particularly along the waterfront as well, I think it'll be less built up than our main kind of skyscraper area, which will be further back in amongst the one that we have already put in there. So I think this will be a nice addition, and yeah, it does kind of fit into this space all right. Yeah, let's get Bob out, and we're going to remove all of the trees, and we're also going to remove all of these car parking spaces as well. So we haven't got any of those props on the outside of it, so we can fit it into this space nicely. Now, it looks like we've still got a bit of jank in the terrain, so let's make sure everything is absolutely super duper smooth here so we can get rid of some of those flood warnings that we've got going on. And it's still a little bit dipped there, but I'll fix that in the detailing. But yeah, ultimately that is where this is going to go. And then next to it is where I want to bring out this kind of lock area essentially. So how I want to do this is I want to bring out a pedestrian road which is raised probably... We'll bring it at a slight angle to about there. And then I'm going to get a road forced to ground. The smallest section we can possibly do. Let's turn off all snapping for this. So just something like that. Because I want to then use our park life paths as roads to create this kind of bridge over the lock ultimately. And unfortunately we can't connect it into the pedestrian road for some reason. So yeah, that is what it is. So let's go to raised sections again and we'll join up those roads there. This needs a lot of tidying up, obviously. So let's make sure that those nodes are the same height here for starters. We'll definitely want to come into node controller and turn off all of our markings for this. And then I'm actually going to create 2 nodes out of this. So I'm going to add in another node using Network Multi-Tool here. I'm not sure why this one's gone slightly funny. Let's go on to node controller. Yeah, let's just make sure that's as a middle there. And then these ones we want to be the same height and slightly raised up so that ultimately boats could potentially go through them. There's a very kind of subtle, gentle slope going over there. And then to make it look like it is actually a kind of lock area, we're going to use some of the vanilla bridge archway pieces, just these simple ones, to frame this. So if we grab this, we have to place it roadside, so that's why we're doing that. And then we're going to place it over this node right here. I just block off tiny bits of the edges of the pathway, but that's not really a problem. But it creates this nice archway over it too, which I think looks pretty cool. And we can copy that and put in another one this side, like so. And then it gives us this little area which does look a little bit like a lot at least. I think what we can do is just grab move it and we'll page down just a little bit just to make them slightly lower. But then we can put a few yachts and a little marina in this area and make it look quite nice, I think. And I'm thinking now I'm looking at it as well, this pedestrian road should probably be forced to ground so that we can do some rock work around it. So let's go ahead and do that too. And I'm also then thinking as well, this side, let's create a little bridge. Just so again, we've got a little inlet of water within the downtown there, and it gives quite a nice little road, pedestrian road access all the way across the middle there too. So just to finish this off, we need to add in some detailing and extend our grids out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in a time lapse now, and I will be right back. we have now got our downtown road network in and a little bit detailed. I haven't really done too much, so I won't spend very long going over this. Obviously, we added in our favourite little harbour wall rocks all the way along the waterfront. So really like how this is looking with the coconut palm on the waterfront as well. We've used the lilac palm flowing up the main road and actually some California palms in the plaza around our main skyscraper there. They're a little bit tall, so I didn't really want them all the way up this road. I felt they were too dominant. I think the lilac palm is a better fit, a better height, and not quite as bushy as our coconut palm that we have here. We did a little bit of key work around our lagoons. I have got these little steps down. We're going to put assets in here, which we'll come on to, obviously, but I'm imagining people will sit on these steps. Yeah, looking out onto the lagoon. This is the kind of thought process that I had with that. This still needs a bit of tidying up, and obviously we'll get some nice kind of key details, some benches and other things like that along the waterfront there, but for the moment it's okay, I think. I did put in Trams and Metro actually just to get those all working. We'll go over those networks when we come to the actual downtown episode. They are dummy for the moment, but just so we could see trams operating around the city. And yeah, really like how this little dock's looking, actually, ready for some marina boats or something in here. It's not going to be particularly big, but yeah, I think it's a decent space for it, and with the quay at the back I quite like that, with the rocks around it too. Just done a little bit of surface painting in around the mall. And then over here, I did add in the tram depot, which I think was a nice fit on that corner next to the bus station. It kind of just sits underneath those rail lines as well, which I quite like. And it's out of the way because we've just got the slip road coming in here. We've also got a pedestrian service point to service this area. We'll have more pedestrian roads I would add in and around the skyscrapers here. So we'll need to extend that area. But for now, it's just keeping that skyscraper happy. And we do have intercity trains coming in and out of our station. So I have removed the intercity connectivity off our main station in Serenity now. So everyone is coming in and out of here. And it is a lot of people, as you can see, waiting there. So it gets incredibly busy, all going onto the tram and the metro network sitting outside here too. We have also gone through and just changed up some of the roads. So I've added in bike paths where it was necessarily like here, these bike roads, made sure that that's all connected up nicely. We've got some nice grass median roads flowing down here too. Don't really want people parking on the street in the downtown too much. And then we have got some little points of IMT on, mainly on these junctions actually. So if we go back to this connection, really like how this now flows out of there, just with a little bit of node controller and IMT work. Little sections of IMT where the bike lanes cross over the main roads down here too. Also in our main junction here, there's a bit more IMT to do around the place, so we'll come on to that when we come onto the junctions, but just trying to keep it relatively simple for today until we know what building placements and assets we're going to be putting in. But yeah, I think all in all, we've managed to connect up to all the areas I wanted to get to. We've got this road now coming up into the mountains this side. I've also got this one crossing out into this area. Of course, this mountain road that will go around here will also cross over, so that won't be the only point of connection for the people over this side. And then lots of obviously transit in there as well. So yeah, really quite excited to get on to building this, and we'll be doing that next time. It's going to be a long process to fill out even just this entire grid. So I think the focus for next time will either be on the waterfront or on the central business district. You can let me know in the comments what you would like to see next. Which would you prefer? Should we start from the waterfront and work our way back, or should we start from the peaks of height and work our way out from that? Let me know what you would like to see next. And I have to say, one of the biggest things I'm enjoying actually is some of these bridged roads and these layers of height. Like particularly the Old Market Station actually like peaks quite high, like it's quite dominant. So I want to try and protect that, I think, from certain angles. And also, of course, the big drive in, the big reveal as you come round this mountain, as you come round towards the downtown, is also going to be a key point of focus, I think, for me when I start to put in that skyline. So yeah, very, very excited to come onto that. But for today, that is going to be it. So if you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are really, really greatly appreciated and really help the channel to grow and reach new audiences. And so thank you to all of you who engage on a regular basis. Like, it really is genuinely so appreciated. But that is all from me for now. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.